Welcome to another video. Today we are in a 2018 BMW F80 generation M3 Competition. Given how, let's say, divisive BMW's new design language is, a lot of folks, including myself very recently, have been looking to the older generation BMWs. For the most part, they've come down in price, they're relatively affordable compared to new cars, and they still offer a ton of performance and fun. And that, I think, sums up the F80 generation BMW M3 perfectly. You can pick up a 2018 competition model like this one for right around $50,000 to $55,000 on average. This particular car is equipped with a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Of course, you could also get it with a manual. Now, the owner, Paul, has not kept this M3 stock. He's done quite a bit of mods to it. We have bolt-ons and a stage 2 flex fuel capable tune. Right now, we're running around E52, according to Paul, and that should be netting us anywhere from 550 to 580 wheel horsepower. Also, this has the transmission tuning from the M4 GTS, as well as the MDM control, steering, E-diff settings, and the dampers from the M3 CS. That's all electronic tuning, basically just a reflash of the software, as the hardware between these different M models from the generation are pretty much all the same. As for the bolt-ons that got us to the 550 plus wheel horsepower, we have Catless Downpipes, dual Akrapovic titanium Midpipes, and an OEM M Performance Catback exhaust. As you'll see in a moment here, this thing sounds absolutely wicked. We've also got the M Performance height adjustable spring kit. It maintains the factory electronic dampers, 19-inch BBS FIR wheels with a staggered Michelin PS4S tire setup, 265 in the front, 305 in the rear. This is not my first experience with an F80 competition. I did drive a bone stock example a couple of years ago, and even in stock form, the car is so damn good. For an everyday drivable, spacious family sedan with creature comforts, the thing drives like an absolute dream. It's a rocket ship on the straights with a proper ELSD on the rear axle, so this thing loves to go sideways. Let's see if the mods that Paul has done has changed the overall character of this car. Oh, by the way, we also have the M2 CS steering wheel, which looks absolutely gorgeous. Love that this generation still gave us a manual handbrake. BMW gives you a ton of adjustability with the modes. Obviously, you have an M1 and M2 button that you can set to your preference, but we're just gonna manually set these things here. So engine, we're gonna put in Sport Plus for maximum throttle response. The dampers, we're gonna put into Sport. I found Comfort a little bit too soft and wallowy, and Sport Plus is just too stiff. Because we do have electric power steering, there's not really that much steering feel, so I don't want necessarily a ton of weight. So I'm gonna put it into the Sport setting. Right away, even with only 43,000 miles on this car, unfortunately, I'm already hearing all sorts of creaks and rattles from these interior panels, something that gives me a little bit of PTSD from my 03 540i that I used to own. Seems like a common BMW build quality issue here. Woo! Wow, this thing just wants to get up and go. Woo! Wow. The suspension actually feels a little bit uncontrollable, maybe is the wrong word, but it's definitely very, very up on its tippy toes. Wow. This thing is no joke. The horsepower and the power delivery. This thing really likes to be revved out to its 7,500 RPM red line. There's a little bit of lag down low, and then it just rockets you forward. You know what? I'm gonna turn this engine and throttle response setting back to Sport. In Sport Plus, it's really touchy on that initial tip-in of the throttle pedal. Let's see if sport feels a little bit more linear. First gear. If you heard right there, in third gear, as I went over that little bit of a crest, I didn't even know there was a crest back there based on other cars I've driven, but this car, it actually spun the wheels just as it crested over. Also, this brake pedal feels a bit soft. If you stomp on it, it'll still stop, but not the most confidence-inspiring on that initial bite. Good God, this thing is crazy. It's so fast, but also honestly traction limited. This transmission super quick, super aggressive. Woo. See, my problem here, I guess you could say, is the suspension. It just doesn't give me a whole ton of confidence. Very up on its tippy toes everywhere, even on the straights. This thing loves to just wag its tail, even in MDM mode, which is not full traction and stability control off. This engine is such a torque monster in the mid-range. And that raspy S55 sound. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I find it pretty damn intoxicating. It gives you some of that high RPM shriek, along with that inline six sort of raspiness that even the E46 M3 was known for. The steering feel is a little bit lacking, as you'd expect for an EPS unit, but it is quite precise. Second gear in this car, you gotta be careful. It's just so much torque being sent to the rear wheels. Oh yeah, the suspension. Not a huge fan of the M Performance HAS kit or height adjustable spring kit. I feel like this could really do with a proper set of dampers. I did try Sport Plus mode earlier and it was just too stiff for this road. So sport setting I think is the best option, but still not quite ideal. So pros for me for this car, definitely the engine, especially with the tune, the flex fuel tune. Crazy power up top. It gives you some of that turbocharged old school feel, along with really good response once you're in the upper part of that rev range. The performance level you get with the F80 M3 Competition from the factory is already impressive, but when you add another 200 plus brake horsepower, this thing becomes outrageous. Now I know the S55 engine does have some well-documented issues, the crank hub being the main one, and Paul said he did get that issue addressed. So from a value perspective, $50,000 to $55,000, get the crank hub issue resolved and you're pretty much good to go. You don't have any rear subframe problems with this generation. For the most part, the F80 Comp should be a pretty reliable car. For the money, you can either get one of these or an M2 Competition. I honestly think the F80 Comp is the sweet spot as an everyday drivable performance car. That's not a knock on the M2 Comp, but you do get a proper full-size back seat and it's just more usable on a daily basis. Dynamically, I think I still prefer the F87 M2 Comp just slightly. I think maybe with a proper set of dampers on this F80, the two cars would be much more evenly matched. But I think we need to do one more straight line pull here. Fast. But even in a straight line, this thing is kind of just darting around just ever so slightly, and it makes me I'm never fully trusting this car when I put my foot to the floor. With over 550 wheel horsepower, this thing might be a touch overpowered. Again, maybe with proper suspension and maybe better tires, this would be a lot more confidence inspiring, or maybe with a slightly less aggressive tune, maybe around 450 to 500 wheel horsepower, this thing would be a lot more confidence inspiring. But either way, this thing is an absolute riot to drive. Also, damn, my Type S looks pretty damn good. So let me know what you think about the F80 competition. Let me know about the mods. Do you think adding 200 plus wheel horsepower is the way to go? What other supporting mods are needed to make this level of straight line performance feel confidence inspiring in the F80 generation? Either way, I think for $50,000 to $55,000, you're getting a hell of a car for the money. Considering that Type S costs about the same as what one of these is, this has way more excitement at the limit, being a front engine rear wheel drive car. Big thank you to Paul for letting me drive this F80, and I'll see you guys in the next video.